Shushreya Uttamam Shabde Pare Cha Nishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam Sarvato Manaso Sangam Hadau Sangam Cha Sadhushu Dayam Maitrim Prashrayam Cha Bhuteshwadha Yatochitam Parasparanu Katanam Pavanam Bhagavad Yashaha Mito Ratir Mitastustir Nivritir Mita Atmanaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Great translation of one of them, 11:2-6. Those who worship the demigods receive reciprocation from the demigods in a way just corresponding to the offering. The demigods are the attendants of karma, like a person's shadow. But sadhus are actually merciful to the fallen. In Chaitanya Leela there is one pastime. Advaita Acharya, he feels that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing him a lot of respect, and he wants Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to deal with him like his servant, because that's the position of Advaita Acharya. He's Mahavishnu, he wants to be in the position of the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what happens in that instance is, he tries to deal with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a very respectful way, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in turn would reciprocate him like how he would treat his master, which Advaita Acharya didn't like. He wanted to remain as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's servant, but because Advaita Acharya was elderly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing him a lot of respect. So then, in order to make Chaitanya Mahaprabhu treat him as a servant, Advaita Acharya plays the pastime of talking about different types of philosophy, especially impersonalism. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gets very upset, and then he comes to Shantipur and he chastises him. So at that time, Advaita Acharya, he feels very happy. He said, "My Lord, finally you have admitted that you are the Supreme Lord. My mission is accomplished. So please deal with me like that. You are my master and I am your servant. Please deal with me as a servant." Saying this, he falls at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet and he cries like a little child. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu picks him up and he embraces and he tells to Advaita Acharya that, "Advaita, I'm your sold out servant. I'm your sold out property. You can sell me anywhere." And he says, even if somebody offends me, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, even if somebody offends me but takes your shelter, be it in a plant form, animal form, bird form, what to speak of human form, I will still deliver them. I'll still give them Krishna Brahma, like the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Advaita Acharya in turn, he actually says that, "My Lord, those who neglect you and approach the demigods, may all their effort become futile." And in relation to that, which is connected to this verse, he actually says that we all know about what happened to the son of king of Kashi. His name is Sudakshina. He is a worshipper of Shiva and he wants to cause disturbance in Dwaraka, especially to Krishna. So he does a yajna, creates a fiery demon and he sends him there. Now, obviously, Sudarshana comes there and then Sudarshana defeats this demon. This demon feels so scared, it falls at Sudarshana's feet and he says, "Master, please save me. I don't know anything. I'm just like a weapon being used." Then Sudarshana gives him a choice. "I give you one option. Either you get killed by me or you go back and kill your master." Then he goes and he kills Sudakshina. So Advaita Acharya narrates this pastime and he says, just like how we learn from Sudakshina's, not Sudarshana. Sudarshana is the chakra who defeated the demon, but the son of king of Kashi, his name is Kashiraja's son's name is Sudakshina. So just like what happened in Sudakshina's case, Advaita Acharya, he actually says, may that be the result of anyone who resort to just worshipping demigods but neglecting you. But on the other hand, we may think that worshipping demigods is something which is going to upset the Supreme Lord Krishna. If you read Bhagavad Gita carefully, Krishna is very accommodating. What Krishna is actually telling is, understand what the position is of everyone. Krishna likes to be served along with his energies and not just alone. There is even another pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One day in Chandrasekhar Acharya's home, he says, today I will act in a drama, so everyone be prepared. And then there it's mentioned, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu acts his own internal potency, like Lakshmi ji he acts. He plays the role to perfection that even Mother Sachi couldn't recognize that it was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then he acts there, and then he would take the mood of different potencies of his own self. So he would sit like Mahalakshmi and he says, offer me prayers. Like that he would say his devotees, and the devotees would glorify. Vrindavan Das Thakur says the Supreme Lord loves all his entourage, including all his energies and everyone. So it's not that we should reject them, like condemn them like that. That's a very extreme stage. But we should always understand that anyone and everyone in this world, they are under the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is actually enough to give anyone anything. So in that sense, it's not needed to go to demigod. However, if somebody is in a position of worshipping demigod, it's still okay as long as they worship the Supreme Lord also together. Supreme Lord likes to be worshipped along with all his energies, but not independent of the Supreme Lord. That is offensive. Okay, so here that's what it's mentioned. Those who worship the demigods receive reciprocation from the demigods in a way just corresponding to the offering, because that's how much authority the demigods have to reciprocate with the worshipper. The demigods are attendants of karma like a person's shadow, but sadhus are actually merciful to the fallen. On the other hand, whether somebody worships a sadhu or not, whether somebody calls out sadhu or not, it doesn't matter. Sadhus, there is no jurisdiction at all. They can go anywhere and everywhere to give benedictions to anyone. So that's why worshipping spiritual master alone is actually enough. We don't need to worship any other demigod. Okay, let's continue with Uddhava Gita. So last week we heard from Bhava Prabhu about Pingala Gita, the song of Pingala. The lesson that is actually learned, or rather highlighted by the Avaduta Brahmana, who is Lord Dattatreya, is desire is the root cause of all unhappiness. Converse is also true. Giving up the desire means one is becoming happy. Okay? Holding on to the desire causes unhappiness. Letting go of desires brings happiness. So that's the lesson we learn from the story of Pingala. So that was Pingala was the 17th Guru. So that marks the end of the previous chapter, and that brings us to 11th canto, chapter 9, detachment from all that is material. Now if you read this title, you may think, what has this got to do with the other gurus? The remaining 7 gurus who are actually mentioned, from 18 all the way till 24, plus there is 25th Guru also, which is his body, but he doesn't single his body out as a guru. He says, but generally it is said it's 24 gurus. But at the end he also adds, I learned from this body also, and then he would share his realizations. So here, detachment from all that is material. All the remaining 7 gurus, if you see, one underlining almost a common theme across all of them is how one should remain detached, how one should remain aloof from the materialistic enjoyment. Srila Prabhupada explains that generally if you take any other living entity of 8.4 million species, any living entity, they would have only certain sense working very prominently. In other words, like if you take, eagle for example, what comes to your mind? Vision. Likewise, if you take each and every animal, there is some sense which is very, very prominent. We were even discussing in the previous class about how each of the different senses, they cause the downfall for different animals. For example, for some animals or birds, sense of smell is very, very strong. For some, taste, for some, touch, so on and so forth. But Prabhupada says, only in human form of life, there are avenues to gratify all the senses. as far as the other living entities are concerned, there are avenues only to gratify only certain senses. So Prabhupada says relatively they are less risky in that position. However, Prabhupada says in human form of life, because there are avenues to gratify all the senses, both gross and subtle, what it means is if a person is untrained in Krishna consciousness, then such a person is in a very, very precarious, dangerous position. So Prabhupada says, especially in human form of life, one has to be very, very careful how one engages in the senses. The mind is called as Brihad Bala. Prabhupada says Brihad means big, Bala means powerful. The mind is very, very powerful. And Prabhupada says, if we don't learn how to control the mind by taking shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, then mind is going to keep on causing more and more trouble, and the gross senses, subtle senses will helplessly be dragged more and more and more like that. So we have to be very, very careful. It's mentioned that the mind is so powerful that simply by desiring, it causes next body for our next life. If you think about it, whatever one meditates, that will also be one of the Guru we will see today. Whatever one meditates, that particular body is actually formed based on one's object of meditation. Like Puranjana story, you see, that's what happens. Okay, King Prachina Barhi just keeps on thinking about his wife, and then in his next life he gets a woman's body, like that. You take a Bharat Maharaj, he thinks about a deer, he becomes a deer in the next life. So whatever one meditates on, that state they attain. If one meditates on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then one attains Vaikuntha, and there one attains Goloka Vrindavan, and from that point onwards they can serve the Lord eternally in spiritual world. So what the mind is meditating, that is very, very important, and today we are going to see how to focus the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. So let's start with the 18th Guru. So the first two verses, they discuss about the 18th Guru, which is a Kurari bird. Kurari birds, what he learnt is also similar. So Avadhuta Brahmana says that from Kurari bird we can actually learn how by letting go of desires brings one happiness. How by being detached from one's material desires one can be happy. So Kurari bird, it's a hawk. So one day what happens, a Kurari bird is actually about to enjoy its meat, its prey. But at that time it's surrounded by so many other big, gigantic hawks, who, being bereft of any other food anywhere, they started attacking, because this is the only bird that has food there. You would see sometimes, among the birds they may fight. Whoever who is more powerful, they'll actually go grab more. So same thing happens here also. But this younger Kurari bird, it's looking around here, there, and it is seeing so many gigantic birds, and its life is at stake. They fight till death. So at this point, he is making a split-second decision. Yesterday I was giving a class, and one devotee asked me this question, that like, we study so much in philosophy, and any guidance we can always ask our Siksha Guru or Diksha Guru, consult the scriptures and everything. But he says, many times we are also put in a situation where you have to make split-second decision. You have to, because you can't tell in that position, please wait, I will. Imagine you walk down the road and there is a thief coming to rob you. You can't tell him, should I fight with him or should I not? Hey, can you please wait? I'll call somebody, consult with them to then decide whether to fight with you or give you whatever I have or run away from here. You can't do. Split-second decision only. So the devotee was asking, so in that situation, there is no avenue to consult with anyone. What should we do? And if you think about it, majority of our situations are like that in real time. If you see, you may be driving the car, you may be in your work, and you have to. You may be going for an interview, they make an offer, which you didn't expect. So now you have to make a split-second decision. So then I was telling him, I'll answer you by giving you homework. Read 10.10 and 10.11. Prabhupada actually explains in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham Satatayuktanam and Tesham Evanakam Pardam verse. So if you read the translation there and the purport, Prabhupada actually gives the answer. How we can always be aligned with the desire of spiritual master, aligned with the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada says, whichever disciple, whoever takes the instructions of the Guru seriously, will get to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I repeat, whoever takes the instructions of the spiritual master seriously, Prabhupada says, they will get to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Supreme Lord is seated in one's heart, and Supreme Lord will give them. Whoever who is actually taking that shelter, Supreme Lord will actually give. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hritsa roja ashay shrutekshitapato nanunata pumsam yatyadhyata urgaya vibhavayanti tattat vapu pranayase sadanugrahaya. So Supreme Lord, whoever who actually hears about the instructions of the Supreme Lord, what happens is, through their ears, they actually see the Supreme Lord. We usually study about the seeing. How much can we actually see? Generally, in material world, that's how we are taught. Yesterday I was reading an article. There is an 11-year-old boy who is the youngest graduate in quantum physics. When he was 6 years old, in one European country, when he was 6 years old, he was in higher secondary school. By the time he was 8, he was doing an undergrad in university, and at 11 years he is a graduate in quantum physics. They are calling him Little Einstein, and now he is looking to start his PhD soon. They are asking him, what's the mission of your life? Interesting. And he is telling, the mission of my life is to make humans immortal. I was like, wow. And then he is giving, based on his own empirical understanding, he is saying, extending his answer, he is saying, now that means I need to replace as many organs in human's body with machines. I was like, dude, this is really 11-year-old boy. I was thinking, if only someone gives him a copy of Gita with so much intelligence, how much he can actually do good. But with this wrong turn which they actually take in the highway towards the spiritual world, they take one wrong exit and that's it. It's going to lead, it's going to cost one whole life, basically. Whole life you will actually work. Is this something new? Isn't that what Hiranyakashipu tried before? Isn't this what Ravana tried before? Isn't this what Prabhupada was saying? I was reading it, I was shocked. 11-year-old boy, but misled, unfortunately. I was thinking somehow we should get, the details of his parents or somebody, at least, gift him a Bhagavad Gita and ask him to read. With so much intelligence, they can understand. Prabhupada says Einstein, he appreciated existence of God. They can. It's just that opportunity is not given there, unfortunately, so far. So here we have to understand that through our ears we actually see. So based on that boy's intelligence, he is figuring out. Mechanically he is saying, so humans are dying, that's due to the organ failure. So if only I can replace the different organs with some machines, that way it can continue. But the problem is, again, there is not even an iota of understanding of soul, unfortunately. No understanding of consciousness. So when we see the Supreme Lord through ears, rather than trying to pantastu koti sattavatsara sampragamyo, rather than trying to decipher, rather than trying to speculate about the existence of God, if we see God through the ears, tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hritsa roja, what happens is, when we hear about the Supreme Lord, those sound vibrations go into the heart and they cleanse the heart, and then it creates an asana for the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord comes and be seated there. He remains seated there. And then what does he do? He then blesses, gives instructions from inside. Not only that, he also manifests the form that is of the liking, that is of the object of dearmost worship for the devotee. To fulfill that desire, whichever form the devotee is wanting to see the Lord, that form he manifests. Okay, so that's how it's given. So here, the Kurari bird is actually understanding that my life is at stake, I need to let go. And with that intelligence, it makes a split-second decision and it lets go of the food and it protects its body. You will come across this, sort of famous saying, for the sake of a family, one person can be sacrificed. For the sake of a village, one family can be sacrificed. For the sake of a country, one whole village can be sacrificed. Chanakya Pandit says all this, and then finally he says, for the sake of yourself, all this can be sacrificed. So protecting oneself is the highest duty. When Tamal Krishna Maharaj actually writes to Prabhupada, what service should we do? Should we go do Harinam Sankirtan? Should we go for fundraising? Should we do book distribution? Should we do preaching? What of all these different services, which service should we do? Prabhupada very succinctly replies back saying, in all place, time and circumstances, saving oneself is the highest principle. So we should always understand that protecting oneself, that is how we actually understand how much is too much. Okay, now the capacity would actually vary. If you look at some other devotee may be able to do something bigger based on his or her capacity. But if we look at that and try to copycat, it's going to be a problem. On the other hand, if we, based on proper guidance from our authorities, our Siksha Gurus, friends, devotee friends, if we take proper guidance, then with that consultation we will be able to understand, we will be able to gauge, okay, this is how much I can handle. Other devotees may be able to do a bit more, they may be able to donate more, they may be able to preach more, they may be able to serve more. That's based on their capacity. Their situation is different. My situation is different. My job situation is different. Family situation is different. So everyone needs to find their position of strength. Prabhupada says, when he explains about the fight between the crocodile and the Gajendra, Prabhupada explains the water, it's the position of strength for crocodile. Land is the position of strength for elephant. In water, even though elephant is so strong, crocodile will still win the war, will still win the battle. So Prabhupada says one should find what their position of strength is in their life, and from that position they should then execute Krishna consciousness. Everything else is a detail. I keep repeating this again and again. Don't take any roles that we have in this world seriously. Sarva Upadhi, they are all Upadhi only, temporary. Only role that doesn't change, not just in this life, forever, is Jivara Swarupohi Krishna Nityadas. Everything else is a detail. You may lead a group, don't lead a group. You may do one service, may not do that service. You can change the service, no problem. But what doesn't change is our relationship with the Supreme Lord. That doesn't change. So when that principle is held on to, everything else can be adjusted around. But if we are not strong in that faith about our eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, and then try to manipulate things around that, then there will be cause of distress. All the time there will be. Okay, so we have to understand, yes, when we go to a position, in a leadership position also, it gives opportunity to do a lot of service, absolutely. But then we have to see capacity. Just like for Arjuna. Arjuna knew that, between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga is higher up in the yoga ladder. But when he asks Krishna, so I should just quit everything and go to forest state, Krishna says no. But Krishna, you said Jnana Yoga is actually better. Krishna says yes. Jnana Yoga, between the two, Jnana Yoga is higher too. But for you, Karma Yoga is better. Okay, it's one thing to say what is actually better, what is higher and lower, but it's completely different thing to conclude what is better for us. Okay, what adhikar do we have? That's very, very important. Here also some of the instructions, if you see from Avaduta Brahmana, he would say, so I should practice Ajakara Vritti. We were discussing how I should practice like a snake, a python. That may work for the Avaduta Brahmana, won't work for us. So we still take the principle. Principle is to be detached. Principle is, okay, try for one type of prasad. It's okay to have favorites. Try. If you don't have, don't get too bogged down by that. Just pick up the other one, whatever that's available, and eat, move on, basically. That's the principle we can derive from that. Not that you don't go to the kitchen and cook. Not that you don't work and wait for the Supreme Lord to actually provide you. He will provide you. Directly as well as indirectly. Okay, so we should not be too egoistic. Once somebody asked my Guru Maharaj, actually, is it mandatory to take initiation? Nice question, right? Yuga Dharma is there, why should we take initiation? My Guru Maharaj was saying that if we think holy name alone will actually take us back to Godhead, that is true. Prabhupada himself actually writes in the Bhagavatam purports that for holy name to manifest its fullest potency, one should take Diksha. Otherwise, technically, yes, holy name can actually take one back to Godhead. My Guru Maharaj is saying, but Krishna, when he sees a soul chanting holy name sincerely, and being pleased with that little soul's attempt to know about him, he sends the Guru as his mercy. Now, if the person thinks, I have taken shelter of the holy name, so I can reject the Guru, my Guru Maharaj said, that is offensive. Offensive to the mercy which Supreme Lord is giving. We should never think that I have enough mercy. You see today's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance day, you see the mood, how he manifests. Doesn't he know he is Manjari? Of course he knows he is Manjari. But Prabhupada says, Goswami's mood is, they never think that I have attained Krishna. They'll always be begging everyone, where is Krishna? Please give me mercy of Krishna, like that. So that's the proper mood. So here the saintly Brahmana said, everyone considers, this is Canto 11, chapter 9, text 1. The saintly Brahmana said, everyone considers certain things within the material world to be most dear to him. And because of attachment to such things, one eventually becomes miserable. One who understands this gives up material possessiveness and attachment and thus achieves unlimited happiness. Text 2, which is again related to the Kurari bird. Once a group of large hawks who were unable to find any prey attacked one another. Weaker hawk who was holding some meat. At that time, being in danger of his life, the hawk gave up his meat and experienced actual happiness. Okay, so we need to know in a situation where the priorities are constantly shifting, we need to be very, very clear what is it that is non-negotiable. What is non-negotiable is protecting one's life. Everything else you can just let go, you can earn later, no problem. So here the hawk is in such a situation, it is happy to let go of everything. Now what principle can be derived from this? Same. Only eternal position we always have is that we are servant of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. That is non-negotiable. Everything else can be adjusted. Job, how much we earn, okay, what house we rent or where we actually live. Any material situation can always be worked around. Of course, discrimination has to be used. It has to be properly consulted with devotees, and then with the proper guidance you have to make decisions. Nevertheless, in principle we need to understand that which doesn't change is our eternal relationship with Radha Gopinath. That we are servants of Radha Gopinath. That doesn't change. What will change is everything else. Okay, what clothes you wear, how much is your bank balance, what prasadam did you take, what service are you doing, which group are you leading. Everything else we can keep changing. Okay, you can do one service this year, next service you can change the following year. Okay, you can be in one job, earn so much, you can change to another job. Everything can actually be adjusted around. Prabhupada always would say, so it has to be adjusted like that. That adjusted has got very deep significance in many ways. Prabhupada would use that word when it comes to, let's say if there is some sort of a misunderstanding between devotees, Prabhupada would say, we shouldn't take it seriously like that. Things has to be adjusted. Or if there is a clash between two managers, Prabhupada would say, if somebody has problem with managing their life, Prabhupada would say, so like that you should adjust. Even when it comes to, when one disciple is writing a letter to Prabhupada, so Prabhupada, how much should we sell these books for? So Prabhupada says, that depends on your discretion. So Prabhupada is not so much after making Lakshmi. That doesn't mean Prabhupada wanted all of us to just give it out for free. Not like that. Prabhupada says, if they give some money, they will think, they have taken so much money. Let me see what is there, like that. But at the same time, Prabhupada you would see the urgency in the message of Prabhupada. Prabhupada would say, so print all these books and you have to quickly distribute, like that Prabhupada says. So the urgency of the message, that is very, very important, more than how much money you make. Okay, so it's important for us to know that in our real life, things won't be in black and white all the time. But understanding clearly what is the shelter, permanent shelter for us, everything else can be adjusted. Now if we start to check the foundational principle itself, which is our relationship with Krishna, then it's a problem. Then whatever decisions we make has no basis at all. Whereas keeping that relationship intact, keeping that one thing as non-negotiable in our whole existence, if we adjust everything, even if there is error in judgment, Krishna will come and protect us at that time also. Okay, so we have to be mindful of that. So that brings us to text 3, which is 19th Guru. Actually, 3rd and 4th text is 19th Guru. And 19th Guru is a small child. What does he learn from a child? In family life, this is text 4, 11.9.4. In family life, the parents are always in anxiety about their home, children, and reputation. But I have nothing to do with these things. I do not worry at all about any family, and I do not care about honor and dishonor. I enjoy only the life of the soul, and I find love on the spiritual platform. Thus I wander the earth like a child. So if you read carefully this, he is in effect mentioning about the qualities of a child, little child. In family life, the parents are always in anxiety about their home, children, and reputation, but I have nothing to do with these things. A child doesn't care about reputation, doesn't care about home, doesn't care about parents, doesn't care about anything. I do not worry at all about any family, not only its family. A child doesn't care about any family. And I do not care about honor and dishonor. I enjoy only the life of the soul. So a child, if you see, a child will be very happy. A child knows how to keep himself or herself happy. Simple things. Now if you sit and watch, sometimes little kids, they play, you may find it boring sometimes, but you can see how they are able to derive happiness by seemingly simple things for us, but for them it means the world. Okay, so here he is learning from this child how one should develop this quality of enjoying within. In other words, how to take Atmendriya, how to take the pleasure from the spiritual senses, how to take the enjoyment from within. Atma Rama, Supreme Lord is. So devotees of the Supreme Lord are also Atma Rama, in the sense they meditate on the Lord. Prabhupada is actually explaining in one place that even though we actually say Krishna is Govinda, Govinda means one who is the giver or pleasure giver, one who gives pleasure to all the senses and the cows. I was giving one class and one devotee was asking, so does that mean only humans and cows? All 8.4 million species. Isn't that what we read in Bhagavatam when Matsya Avatar comes, 8 million miles long? What happens? All the aquatics, they get attracted to Matsya Avatar. Likewise, you will see different instances when Krishna is actually walking on the forest of Vrindavan. You see all the plants, animals, birds, trees, everyone, they get attracted to Krishna. So Krishna, Govinda means one, Go means senses, Go also means cows. Krishna gives a pleasure to everyone. Now Prabhupada is saying that even though in Krishna consciousness, we are actually taught the central point of Bhagavad Gita. If you read the preface of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says everyone is trying to find pleasure for their own senses. But if one actually understands that the only way for them to enjoy their senses is not by trying to give pleasure to theirs, but to please Krishna senses. Sarvapadi Vinirbhuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. But Prabhupada says this is a very paradoxical statement when it is actually said, don't try to gratify your senses, gratify Krishna's senses. We may tend to think that that is the greatest sacrifice we are doing. But Prabhupada says actually devotees are the most intelligent. Even though they are not gratifying their senses, but instead trying to gratify the senses of Krishna, what is the end result? When you satisfy the senses of Krishna, what happens to us? We also get maximum enjoyment, actually. So Prabhupada says devotees are the most intelligent people because they know how to derive maximum enjoyment for their senses. Rather than going directly, they are going indirectly, that's all. Of course, that's a good starting point, but over a period of time, we actually take so much pleasure simply to see Krishna happy. Starting point is, okay, what's in it for me? At least to start from there. Okay, I can't be happy, let me serve Krishna, and then Krishna will bless me. That's a good starting point. But over a period of time, we will get lost in the happiness of Krishna's face. That we completely forget ourselves. So what will Krishna do? He will also forget us? No. Krishna will take extra care now to take care of everyone. Okay, when Sudama Vipra, when he comes to see Krishna in Dwaraka, when Krishna looked at him, one moment, one Acharya writes, Krishna was thinking, hey, was I too busy in the affairs of Dwaraka that I forgot about this devotee like that Krishna? He was that emaciated. Can you believe? Supreme Lord is thinking like that. Hey, did I forget him or what? Like that. Because that is Uddhava Vipra. He completely forgot himself. His whole meditation is only Krishna. So, the more we surrender to Krishna, more Supreme Lord will also think about us. So we don't need to have that fear. Otherwise, generally, if you think about, we have to satisfy Krishna's senses, it looks very negative. Does that mean I should negate myself completely? Does that mean I should not worry about myself at all? It sounds very depressing, correct? Sometimes, even after practicing chanting also for so many years, you still don't find satisfied, peaceful, that, if I simply satisfy Krishna, I'll be happy. But Prabhupada says, you simply do this side of your deal and you see what you get back in return. Okay, so devotees, even though it is said they are looking to satisfy Krishna's senses, yatataror mula nisechanana, tripyanti tatskanta, bhujopashakaha, pranopahara chayatendriyanam, tataiva sarvarahanam achyuteja. Okay, simply by watering the root of the tree, all the branches get nourished. Okay, so here from the child one can understand how one can derive pleasure by enjoying within. In this world, two types of people are free from all anxiety, merged in great happiness. One who is retarded. Retarded means jada. If you see this one, mad person will be happy. And one who has approached the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the three modes of material nature. These are the two extreme cases who will be happy. One who is completely oblivious of anything in this world, that's one extreme. The other extreme is one who has realized everything, both material as well as spiritual. So this is his lesson, simply by observing the activities of a little child. He is observing the child and then he sees the child is happy doing simple things, happy just being within. So he is also learning it. And we can also learn from this how by being the child of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, we can also be happy. So if you just imagine, sometimes I think, if a brand new person walks into the temple, what will go on in their mind? There'll be two devotees there. One will give one flower, smell. This is like kids play, actually speaking, correct? If you look at outside, two kids will play like that. They will think, why is this devotee giving a flower? Why is this devotee smelling and feeling very happy and giving it to the other devotee also? Or you come here, someone gives you charanamrit and you drink. What is this? What are they doing? Everything looks like child play only. Suddenly everyone is bowing down. Suddenly someone goes mad and they sprinkle water on everyone's head. What is this? But actually, this is the real joy. Real joy is to be sons and daughters of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. When one disciple of Prabhupada writes this letter to Prabhupada, it looks like we can't beget a child because my wife's body is actually very weak to carry any child. So he is writing this letter. Prabhupada gives a very beautiful reply. Prabhupada says, instead of producing children for Krishna, it's much better to be the child of Krishna, like that he says. Okay, so but everyone, be it a father, mother, daughter, son, brahmachari, grahastha, everyone is the son and daughter of Radha Gopinath only. That is a very elevated position to be in. That's a very carefree position to be in. Honestly speaking, anything, Gopinath will take care. No problem. Okay, so that should be our aspiration always. So whenever we come in front of Radha Gopinath, just like a little child won't have any ego. You look at the qualities that is given, but I have nothing to do with these things. I do not worry at all about any family. I do not care about any honor, dishonor. I enjoy only the life of the soul, and I find love on the spiritual platform. This is child. Even if you see two kids fighting sometimes, little kids, what do? They just remember that for their whole life? No. They just fight with each other for half an hour, they won't talk, and then they'll continue playing. Very simple. They don't have ego. They don't carry any ill feeling for such a long time. So to be a child is to be in a very, very favorable position to practice Krishna consciousness. Simply dependent on Sri Sri Radha Gopinath and simply to be son and daughter of Radha Gopinath. Okay, text 5, that brings us to the next guru, which is a young girl. So next 5-6 verses from 5th till the 10th verses, you will find the 20th guru, which is a young girl. What does he learn from the young girl? So the story which he actually narrates is, there was once a young girl of marriageable age. So one day few men came to her home asking for her hand. So one of them is the prospective bridegroom. This is the situation. So then she told all of them to be seated, and she goes inside to cook something. So in those days, if you see, they have the paddy from the field, and then they have to beat the husk out, separate it, then only they will get the rice. So as she was actually doing it, she was wearing bangles that is made of conch shells. If you go to South India, especially to even tourist places, anywhere along the coast, you will actually see they sell different ornaments that are made with conch. And they even, they would light fire and they would even show you, anything that's made of conch, it won't melt. Plastic will melt, conch won't melt. So they'll even light and show you. It may get dark, they'll wipe it, it'll go away. That's it. But it will remain. So they make everything, ear studs, rings, brooch, bangles, everything. Now in Vedic times, if somebody is wearing a bangle made of conch, it's not really a very opulent position to be in. Usually they wear gold, some costly material. So as she is actually beating this, she thinks that if I'm actually beating it this way, these bangles are actually producing noise, sound. They may think that I'm a young girl, I'm actually from such a poor background that they are making me to do all this. But she doesn't want them to actually feel that way. So what she does is, she removes all the bangles. Now she has only 2 bangles in one hand and 2 bangles in another. So now there is not much noise. Then she starts to beat, but after some time, even these 2 also start to cling, make noise. Then she realizes this is not going to work. Then she removes one from each. All she is now left with is 1 bangle in each of the hand. This is what Avaduta Brahmana observes. Now what is his conclusion? Even though there may be many yogis who are actually on the path of self-realization, as long as they stay together, it is going to be a problem. There will be some clash. Okay, over who took my Pikshapatra, who took my Kaupina, who took my Angavastra, whatever, Chadar. So he realizes, his conclusion is, the best way for a yogi to practice self-realization is to remain aloof, to remain alone. Just like how few bangles cause a problem, even if it's just with one other yogi, 2 bangles also cause problem. Few of them also cause a problem. Only peaceful situation is when there is only 1 in each hand, which means when you remain alone. So that's his conclusion. And that's the situation he describes here. I'll quickly read through the texts. Text 5 to 10. Once a marriageable young girl was alone in her house because her parents and relatives had gone that day to another place. At that time, a few men arrived at her house specifically desiring to marry her. She received them with all hospitality. The girl went to a private place and began to make preparations so that the unexpected male guests could eat. As she was beating the rice, the conch shell bracelets on her arms were colliding and making a loud noise. The young girl feared that the men would consider her family to be poor because their daughter was busily engaged in the menial task of husking rice. Being very intelligent, the shy girl broke the shell bracelets from her arms, leaving just 2 on each wrist. Thereafter, as the young girl continued to husk the rice, the 2 bracelets on each wrist continued to collide and make noise. Therefore, she took 1 bracelet off each arm, and with only 1 left on each wrist, there was no more noise. O subduer of the enemy, I travel throughout the surface of the earth, learning constantly about the nature of this world, and thus I personally witnessed the lesson of the young girl. Text 10. When many people live together in one place, there will undoubtedly be quarreling. And even if only 2 people live together, there will be frivolous conversation and disagreement. Therefore, to avoid conflict, one should live alone as we learn from the example of the bracelet of the young girl. Terms and conditions apply. This is for jnanis, Ashtanga yogis. For devotees, Prabhupada goes to one place, one Gita Sammelan, and Prabhupada sits there, and one yogi, he comes there and he talks. Those who knows won't talk, and those who talk doesn't know anything. Okay, those who knows something, they don't speak, but those people who speak, what it means is they don't know anything. Prabhupada holds the mic, and Prabhupada says, good. For us, Krishna says, Satatam Kirtayantam Mam. This is our philosophy. You follow your philosophy, you keep quiet. Prabhupada makes him seated down. And then Prabhupada holds the mic and he gives the talk like that. So this principle which we can derive from here is that one should not talk anything which is nonsensical. When Prabhupada visited Australia first time, Sydney, May 1971, at the time Prabhupada is there in a living room, Uddhava Prabhu is actually cooking. And Uddhava Prabhu is meeting a devotee after a long time, so he's asking, how is your yatra going? What services everyone is doing? Like that. But then Prabhupada calls out Upendra. Then Uddhava Prabhu comes. Then Prabhupada tells him, so don't do Prajalpa. Then Uddhava Prabhu tells to Prabhupada, I'm just talking to a devotee. Prabhupada says, yes, that is Prajalpa. And then he is saying, no Prabhupada, I'm actually talking about devotees, some Krishna conscious topic only. Prabhupada says, anything that you are talking other than Krishna is Prajalpa. Was it about Krishna? He says like, not exactly about Krishna. Then Prabhupada says, then it is Prajalpa. So Prabhupada knows how our Kali Yuga minds work, just to talk about Krishna. So Prabhupada says, anything other than that is Prajalpa. Because that's how it will start. It will start about, so what happened to that devotee? And then we will talk about some mistake which that devotee did. And then that will lead to another devotee. Even before we realize, we will feel drained out completely. And then we realize, looks like we offended someone. Okay, so here, for yogis, because they don't have anything positive to speak, then yes, for them it is actually good to remain aloof. At least they will retain their energy and they can focus on something positive. But Prabhupada says, but devotees of Krishna, they can't talk enough about Krishna. Vistaranatmana yogam vibhudimscha janardana bhuyakataya triptrihi strinvato nasti memrutam. I never feel satiated. Oh Krishna, hearing about your glories, please keep on talking. This is what Arjuna is saying. So those who are devotees of Krishna, they don't feel saturated at all hearing about Krishna. They don't feel they have heard enough about Krishna. They can keep on talking about Krishna. But here in general, one should not talk Prajalpa. Then let's move to the next Guru. This is Guru 21. It's about an arrow maker. Arrow maker is one who was actually focused on sharpening an arrow, straightening one arrow he is actually making. He is so absorbed in it that he doesn't even see a king passing by with a big procession. Usually king doesn't walk alone. There will be a big music party going, brahmanas reciting verses, and the whole hospitality team will be there with so much pomp. He'll be walking. Even such a big scene didn't disturb him. He was focused on just his own work. So this is about mental absorption. How Ekeha Kurunandana, Vyavasayatmika Buddhir, Ekeha Kurunandana. One should be practicing Krishna, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, with single pointed focus, Ananyaneva Yogena. Okay, so this is verse 11 to 13. This is 21st Guru, who is an arrow maker. Mana ekatra samyunjaj jita swaso jitasana vairagyabhyasa yogena dhiyamanam atandritaha. Mahaprabhur Bhaktaganer Vairagya Pradhana. It's mentioned. The most prominent quality of all Mahaprabhu's devotees is Vairagya. They are very, very detached. Yaredeki Priti Hane Gaura Bhagavan, it's given. Looking at that detachment, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes very, very satisfied, very, very pleased. Vairagya Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga. You will see other verse also. Sikshartam Yako Purusha Purana. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dari Kripambudhiryastva Maham Prapadye. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya sings. Okay, so the quality of detachment, that is a common trait across all Mahaprabhu's devotees. If somebody is calling himself or herself as a devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then vairagya or detachment will be there. That detachment can be something on a very gross level also, on a very, very subtle level also. They won't be looking for puja, pratishtha, worship. They will demonstrate humility as a result of that vairagya. They'll be very simple. There won't be any ego. They won't be attached to anything. Okay, so that is vairagya. Vairagya means detached completely. They are not too attached to anything. Okay, so they are easygoing. So this is from verses 11 to 13. Having perfected the yoga sitting postures and having conquered the breathing process, one should make the mind steady by detachment and the regulated practice of yoga. Thus, one should carefully fix the mind in single yoga practice. So here, as you can see, he is describing about the path for Ashtanga yogis. But, just like in 6th chapter, even though, in one sense, 6th chapter, which is Dhyana Yoga, it's not exclusively only for, because it talks about mind control, how mind is unsteady, restless, obstinate. So, but the traits or the challenges which is actually faced by any yogi is the same, which is to control the mind. Prabhupada says, the first business of any yogi is to control the mind. That's the first business of anyone practicing spirituality. Okay, so same way here, even though he is actually saying these different processes, if you see yoga, sit, asana, pranayama, that's what he's saying. Having perfected the yoga sitting postures and having conquered the breathing process. Okay, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. That's what he's saying here. Having perfected the yoga sitting postures, which is asana, and having conquered the breathing process, pranayama, one should make the mind steady by detachment, pratyahara, and the regulated process of yoga. Thus, one should carefully fix the mind. Then, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. That's what he's saying here. Okay, in a single goal of yoga practice. Text 12. The mind can be controlled when it is fixed within the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Having achieved a stable situation, the mind becomes free from polluted desires to execute material activities. Thus, as the mode of goodness increases in strength, one can completely give up the modes of passion and ignorance. And gradually one transcends even the material mode of goodness. When the mind is freed from the fuel of modes of nature, the fire of material existence is extinguished. Such a nice analogy. When the mind is freed from the fuel of the modes of material nature, the fire of material existence is extinguished. So what is the fuel here? The three modes of material nature. The fire of material existence. And what is the fire? Fire is samsara davagni. The fire of material existence. So if one frees oneself from these modes, what happens is the fuel for one's material existence gets stopped and the fire gets dosed off automatically. Thus one achieves the transcendental platform of direct relationship with the object of his meditation, which is the Supreme Lord. Thus when one's consciousness is completely fixed in the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one no longer sees duality or internal and external reality. Prabhupada says, as soon as one focuses on sense gratification, one gets affected by dualities, and listen to this line carefully, and one starts to hate devotional service. Scary. Prabhupada says, as soon as one thinks about one's own sense gratification, one immediately starts to see duality and one hates devotional service. We have to be very, very careful. Prabhupada writes that in 4th canto. So, here the process is given. Thus, when one's consciousness is completely fixed in the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one no longer sees duality or internal and external reality. The example is given of the arrow maker who was so absorbed in making a straight arrow that he did not even see or notice the king himself who was passing right next to him. Which means that's how absorbed we should be in serving the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada says different stories actually. There's one instance where there was a king, similar pastime. There was one instance where a king was going. And as the king was actually going, he sees, or rather the king was actually offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. As he was actually offering prayer to the Supreme Lord, one lady runs. And as she runs, she doesn't see the king. She just, her feet actually touches him as he was actually doing prayers. But she runs, disturbing the king's prayers. The king gets very upset, and then he calls, because his prayer is disturbed. The king calls the lady. And he says, "Don't you know I am the emperor here?" She says, "Yes." Then, "I was offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. First of all, you didn't respect the situation. Second, you even came and disturbed me. You are fit to be punished." Then she laughs and she says, "My lord, reason why I was running is, I heard from someone that my son, he met with an accident in the field. I was so oblivious of what was happening around, and I was only focused on saving my son. That's why I was running. And thankfully I was able to save my son." And he says, "All right, why are you laughing?" Then he says, "If me, who is so attached to my son, if I'm so much oblivious of what's happening around me, if I don't even care you, whether you are an emperor or anyone, oblivious of even this situation I was running, how much more focused you should be when you are worshipping the Supreme Lord." The king thought about it and he says, "Yes, that's a good point," and he releases her. So focus on serving the Supreme Lord has to be with single-pointed attention, with single-pointed focus. So that's what he says, same as the arrow maker, who was so absorbed in making a straight arrow that he did not even see or notice the king himself, who was passing right next to him. As we are reading this narration, we can visualize, Avadhuta Brahmana seeing that, Avadhuta Brahmana seeing, young girl beating, Avadhuta Brahmana seeing a child, playing. So it's simple instructions he gives in a way how, common man can actually understand. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. Prabhupada says, if one wants to understand the path of transcendence, one should approach a spiritual master. We'll finish here. Any questions? Yep.
Sometimes it could be that there's like a gray area that the Lord could be talking about something. And it might seem like the devil, but that's okay sometimes.
Yep. Good question. So if we say we have to talk only about Krishna, should we not even talk about the other devotee? Prabhuji, how's your health doing? Is that Prajalpa or is that Japa? Point is simple. If we keep the primary goal to directly glorify Krishna all the time, other talks can be fit in that scheme of things. But if we don't make a direct endeavor, like Indra Prabhu says, at one point, chanting holy name used to be called as Sankirtan. Then it evolved, then it became anybody who raises funds, that became to be called as Sankirtan. And he said, then after some time it evolved, and then whoever does book distribution, that came to be known as Sankirtan. And then he says, after that it evolved, preaching came to be called. After that, he says like that, one after the other. Then he says, but actually Sankirtan means there is direct Sankirtan and there is all other that are related to Sankirtan. Sankirtan means direct glorification of the Lord. Complete direct glorification of the Lord. If that focus is there, everything else actually can coexist along with that. But if that fire in the furnace is neglected, everything else go, we will continue doing everything, but we will lose the purpose. We will not understand why we are doing what we are doing after some time. Whereas, if few devotees come together and they sit, focus on just glorifying Krishna, most of the other problems which we can actually sit and talk about for hours, most of them will get resolved automatically. Because many times what issues will devotees have? Material problems is one thing. Generally, if there is any clash between devotees, That's why it's recommended whenever we come, at least in temple, we should be dancing together with everyone. So even if there are any differences between devotees, in that dance everyone will forget. And then when they go out, they may think, hey, I'm supposed to fight with you. Okay, let's fight now. So that's why when you bring Krishna in any relationship, when you bring Krishna in the equation, things will get solved automatically. That's Kapiladev's instruction. Any materialistic problem, you bring Krishna in there, it will get solved automatically. But if we think, no, we are more intelligent than Krishna, we'll figure it out ourselves. You can do, but it comes under Prajalpa only. If we take Krishna out of the equation. So main course meal should be direct glorification of the Lord. Main course meal should be chanting Hare Krishna. It should be studying Shastras. It should be discussing about 100% Krishna Katha. Direct. There is a difference. Otherwise, why would Narada Muni chastise Vyasadeva? Mildly. Correct? If everything else is okay. We can say it is a grey area, but there is nothing grey there. It's very clear, black and white. Directly talking about Krishna from Shastra. Directly talking about some pastime of Krishna. So it's very clear. But everything else come under that whole spectrum, obviously. We need to still take care of the devotees. We need to take care of so many things. There is preaching we can talk about finances. Everything is devotional service. However, direct glorification has to be focused, has to be given priority, which means hardcore chanting, which means opening the Shastras, especially those given by Srila Prabhupada's books. That alone is enough. Discussing about that. That is, in its strictest definition, japa. Anything other than that, they can actually go. In fact, the reason why other problems actually sprout up is because of lack of focus in this core activity. If everyone's focus is in that core activity, which is simply to chant Hare Krishna, read and distribute Prabhupada's books, if that focus is there, Prasadam also, then all other problems, then everyone will get busy. Prabhupada says the devotees of the Lord are so busy in the world executing their service for Krishna that they have no time. Even if somebody comes, hits them, Prabhupada is saying that they won't even bother because they are too busy, they don't even notice it. Like that. Okay, like Prahlad Maharaj, not even once did he pray to Narsinghadev, please protect me. Why? Naivodvijay Paradduradhyaya Vaitaranyad. He is too busy meditating on the Lord. Supreme Lord has to come down, hey, your life is in danger. He is coming and protecting. This is Prahlad Maharaj's platform. Our platform is we are praying to Narsinghadev, please protect me. That's the only reason we are going. But Prahlad Maharaj's platform is, he not even once, that's what touched, you talk about dependency, this is total dependency. Haridas Thakur, not even once did he actually ask the Supreme Lord, my Lord, please protect me. Pure devotees. 22 marketplaces, beaten, attempted to be killed, to be beaten to death. That's the sentence which the king gives to his soldiers basically. But not even once did he pray. Too busy meditating on the Lord. In fact, Haridas Thakur takes it to one level further. My Lord, please don't kill them. You know the pastime, right? So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hears that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later on Mahaprakash Leela, he reveals to Haridas Thakur, Haridas, when this happened, immediately my Sudarshan Chakra came, and then you are praying, Sudarshan Chakra got confused and it came back to Vaikuntha. I told, hey, go protect him. But Sudarshan Chakra says, you says your devotee are more greater than you. Your instruction is to kill those soldiers. Your devotee is overriding it. I am following your devotee. Like that he says. So then, but Vishnu is thinking, this is my devotee, he is getting beaten, I have to protect him. Only way to protect him is by stopping them. But he is praying for them, so I cannot actually touch them. So only way is, alright, I will go and get the beating. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu removes his chadar and he shows all the beating. When Haridas Thakur looks at it, he faints. My Lord, you directly got the beating just for me, to protect me. Like that. Okay, so focus has to be on the core activity. That is what this process is capable of giving us. If we focus just on that core activity, everything else will happen automatically. Krishna will give intelligence how to resolve everything else very easily. Okay, so direct that yes, everything is Sankirtan, everything is same, but as Ayendra Prabhu says, there is still a special place for chanting Hare Krishna, special place for reading Shastras. That is Sankirtan to its core. Like how Narada Muni says, yes, you can glorify everyone through all the Puranas, but there is a special place for Bhakti Yoga. There is a special place for direct glorification of Krishna. Now, Prabhupada's instruction is, let us focus just on that, everything else will get solved automatically. In fact, the chances for the other problems to sprout up will get drastically reduced. Let us make a safe statement there. And then, because the problem's reduced, we can still talk and resolve. But that will be like, this is 98%, that will be 2%. Not that we are too busy solving all the problems, because what does Bhagavad Gita teaches? Dukkalayam ashashvatam. There's always going to be problems. But then the main focus will get absorbed, and we are not talking about solution here. We'll just talk about fixing the problem, but then without addressing the core issue, which is lack of Krishna consciousness. We'll stop there. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Shri Shri Gaur Anitai ki jai. Samaved Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Just a quick announcement. So on Monday, we'll be blessed with the darshan of Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. So they are in their transcendental sick period, now holiday period. So on Monday they will give their darshan. We were supposed to have Ratha Yatra next Saturday. Unfortunately, due to the current COVID situation, that has been cancelled. The devotees who are the organizers of the event, they said they will try to postpone it and reorganize it sometime in October. Meanwhile, we are planning to have a indoor Ratha Yatra like how we did last year. Now, with the lockdown extended for another week, and if the news is anything to go by, whatever we read online, the lockdown may likely to get extended for a few more weeks as well, so we don't know. Nevertheless, please be informed that there are a group of devotees who have started the preparation in the background. As soon as things mitigate a little bit, we'll definitely be having the indoor Ratha Yatra. So that's one thing. I want to request all the devotees to please take care of yourself with all the current restrictions, plus the growing number of these Delta variant cases. The news is pretty scary, so please take care of yourself, please take precautions. We request everyone to please follow the rules strictly. Whichever indoor you actually go to, please wear masks, take precautions, get tested if you find any symptoms. And we keep praying to their Lordship Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai, Shri Prahlad Narsinghadev, Guru Parampara, Panchatattva, everyone, for each and every one of you in our yatra, as well as for everyone in entire Sydney and Australia, that we remain within the protective ring of mercy of their Lordships. So let us keep chanting Hare Krishna. Let us take this opportunity to go deeper and develop this opportunity to appreciate the value of devotees association, and let us hope and pray that these days of lockdown finishes soon for once and for all. So please keep taking darshan of their Lordship Sri Shri Radha Gopinath. Please keep attending the classes in the evening. You might have seen already, for past 2 weeks we have been giving different classes through different speakers. We are planning to actually start seminars. We will see if the lockdown extends. We will come up with some special seminars during those extended lockdown period. If any of you like to give classes in the evening, please contact Matra Gokul Mataji. She will be very happy to roster you to speak once every week, twice every week. Depending on your availability, you can speak from your home. And as it stands now, temple is still closed for public. So humble request to everyone, please visit temple only if you have services related to deity department. Otherwise, please stay safe, and with the new rules, especially in affected areas, please follow the government regulations strictly, and please protect yourself and your near and dear ones. Thank you very much. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthad Bhutleshmi Japataya Samvedana Machari Patani Tapatani Gaurakatam. Today is the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So we'll be doing Pushpanjali and Guru Puja around 12 o'clock. We'll do Pushpanjali and Guru Puja, and we'll continue with the Kirtan for the Arati. So please do log in online and participate that way. Thank you. Hare Krishna.